Hello, my name is Christina. I am from Deaf Biblical Ministry, Dimapur. The Deaf Biblical Ministry was established in 1987 with the aim to reach out to the deaf population in Nagaland. Now, what do we call a person who cannot hear or a person who cannot talk? The general term, the accepted term is a person who is deaf, or a person who is hearing impaired, or a person with hearing impairment. We do not call them deaf and dumb or deaf and mute. Those phrases are deemed or thought of as offensive to the deaf community. So the term that we can, or the term we can use for them is deaf, or a person with hearing impairment. Now, as with different languages around the world, even sign language has different sign languages. Like there is the British Sign Language, American Sign Language, Australian Sign Language. And in India, India has also developed its own sign language called the Indian Sign Language. And this was developed around the early 2000s because India finally realized that we need a sign language to connect the deaf community in India. So around the early parts of 2000 was when they made the effort to develop a common sign language for the deaf population in India, and that was called Indian Sign Language. When we come to Nagaland, even before the efforts of developing the Indian Sign Language, in 1987, we had the deaf were already using, or they had already started using American Sign Language, and because of that, now it has become the mother tongue for the deaf in Nagaland to use the American Sign Language. And over the years, it has evolved to meet the diverse cultural needs of the deaf in Nagaland. So we can even call it the Naga American Sign Language because of how it has evolved to meet the communication needs of the Naga culture and the deaf in Nagaland. And so there are more than 200 American Sign Language or Naga American Sign Language users in Nagaland spread over all the districts in our state. Now, sign language is a language of its own. It has its own grammatical structures, its own form, and its own rules. So it's not gestures, it's not just some form of sign, but it is a sign language with its own system of grammar, of how the words need to come together to form a language or to form a sentence. And one important aspect, or one important grammatical aspect of sign language is our facial expression, where our facial expression plays a very important role in the communication process, in expressing what we want to say.